Welcome to the Beyond Physio podcast, where we help you move, excel, and inspire others on your journey to your next level with knowledge and advice from experts and testimonials from our like-minded community. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on our show, and I really appreciate you carving out time for us on a Friday night. You've had a great race season, and I'm so excited for some great news that you're going to share in a few minutes. But can you talk to our audience about your background? I think you're a civil engineer.
Yeah.
True? Great.
Yeah, so it's my academic background, but in terms of sports, which is like the other half of my identity.
Yes.
I started off when I was young. I did swim and then played lacrosse and field hockey. I rode for 4 years in college,
Nice.
and then post-college got into running, which like transitioned into triathlon, and now we're here. So yeah, so I would say I'm a lot of different things, but right now I'm mostly racing in triathlons.
That's great. Now let's talk about rowing, because I think that might have been where we started seeing some issues when you came in for your shoulder. And so talk about rowing, what that was like for you, how intense it was, because my impression is it's a pretty hard sport.
Yeah, I think rowing, particularly college rowing, is a lot. And yeah, your body feels different, I think, after you finish 4 years of rowing than before. And, there are always little signs that things were changing throughout the years. Like, I know my senior year, my coach was like, sit up straight. And I was like, I can't sit up. Like, this is my straight. And, a lot of lower back and hip problems. But I think, it's worth it. You get other things out of it. But it's weird playing sports all your life. You're used to going to like the athletic trainers in school. So once I left like a school, I was like, where do I even go if I get hurt? Do I go to like my primary care doctor or what? Yeah. And I think you're sort of conditioned to think you're like out of that area of being like helped with injuries unless it's like you break your leg.
Right.
So
catastrophic.
Yeah. So I think, I left rowing knowing I had serious things change in my body, and I felt that in running all the time, but I was like, I don't even know how to address it or where to go. So I sort of wait till things get bad enough where I have to figure out a solution, which is when I came to you.
So when I saw you, you were swimming, and even swimming was actually pretty painful on that left shoulder, I believe, right?
Yeah, so I grew up swimming, up until college pretty much all year round. So I know what swimming is supposed to feel like. And so after college rowing, when I started to try to swim again for triathlons, I was like, this doesn't feel right. It's like, this is not how I'm supposed to be swimming, and I can't figure out why I'm not swimming correctly. And I couldn't swim for more than like a half an hour with my shoulder not like being really uncomfortable.
That's rough.
Yeah, and then I came to you and I was like, I have had enough like technical training and all these drills I can't even do, but something's like, and I think it's like, I can't figure out, I've tried to do every drill, tried to change everything about my stroke, and I can't figure out my shoulder is hurting. And then I came to you, and I just remember you had me go on the wall and like put my arms up to the back of the wall, which is like your swimming streamline. And I just couldn't even straighten this arm.
I remember that. Yeah, it's crazy. I think just for our audience here, the problem with a lot of shoulder issues that we see, and we do happen to see a lot of clients who have been to other PT places, is that the clinician, and I'm not saying it's necessarily the fault of the clinician because they're often under a lot of pressure and time, but often what happens is they forget how the back of the spine has to conform to the shoulder blade. And when that alignment is off, no matter what we do to the front of the shoulder, to the back of the shoulder, it just won't get fixed. So that's why it's a big area for us to, and it was for you, to start working on that to make sure that was actually in a better position for you to get your stroke.
Yeah, and I will say swimming is like so it was my primary shoulder for rowing that I pulled very laterally with, and swimming's like above your head.
Yes.
So it's a very different type of use of that shoulder. So, and when you're swimming or doing any exercise, you don't see that, how different it is. And like, basically because I couldn't extend, I was like pulling my shoulder like out too far, like almost out of its, I don't know, socket or whatever, to catch. And that's obviously not how you're supposed to swim.
Definitely not,
I was like, I know I have to get to streamline, and this is the only way I can do it.
Yeah. And the good thing is actually we got you better fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And I remember after maybe 1 or 2 sessions, like going into the water, you're totally fine.
Yeah, I was like, this is how I'm supposed to swim.
That's right.
And we did I forget the name of it. Is it the shockwave?
Shockwave, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
On the back of my like shoulder.
Yes. Yeah, that's really helpful. Chocolate has actually been helping a lot of our athletes accelerate their results to get back to things quickly and getting them out of their phase one, which is usually the acute pain stage, so they can get into the rehab stage, start building strength, stability for what they need in their sport.
Yeah, and I noticed it like almost immediately in my shoulder, but
Mm.
also in my running.
Yeah,
Because
that's
at the end of like my marathons or like even speed workouts training wise, like I would only be sore on like one leg.
oh,
So
interesting. Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore, thanks
Oh,
to you.
hey.
And sort of like addressing the whole spine rather
Yeah.
than just like my shoulder.
Yes.
So I had all these issues that I knew, but it seems like you have a million things. Where do I start?
Yeah.
What is the priority?
Yeah. Especially and actually this is mid-season too. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm in off season, I can just, there were like deadlines we had to
Yeah.
get to. I think the first one being Boston, right? The
Yeah.
marathon.
Yeah. So I'll talk about that a little bit. I
Yeah.
came to you, I think 5 days before Boston. So I hurt
Yes.
my back like pretty bad 2 weeks right
I
after
agree.
my last like quality workout.
Yeah.
And I like, tried, it was getting worse and worse. And I could not run a mile like the week before Boston. And I was
Yeah.
like, I
It's unnerving.
yeah, I was like, I can't walk this.
Mhm.
So I came to you and I was like, just can you do anything? Like
Yes, right.
what do I do to even just like finish the race?
Yeah.
And you helped like scrape and sort of like loosen the area.
Yeah.
And it did all come back to the I think the curvature in my
Yes.
spine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I did run the race. I did okay. I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't. I don't think I expected to like have the best race of my life,
Yeah.
but I ran the whole time.
Which is
So
great. Yeah.
yeah, I was like 7 days before. I was like, I would take anything just to walk it. So
No. And I think with you also, it was interesting because this year in particular, we've seen a lot of runners with SI joint issues. And for our audience, the SI joint is basically where the bottom part of the spine meets the pelvis on either side. And this has been an area, I would say, of weakness, maybe deficit for a lot of our runners and triathletes. And so what we found is that, and you remember the setting technique I showed you with,
yeah,
yeah, when we set the pelvis in the right position, and it's a very easy thing to do, a lot of pain gets actually taken care of, and all I have to do at that point is work on stabilization. And I think in Jessica's case, having her do these kinds of things, very simple things, was what helped her able to get to the start line at Boston.
yeah, and I still do those like every week.
Yes, good, compliant, very
Yeah, I still
compliant.
do my whole training
Yeah,
like thing that you set up for me, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, just the fact that I still can't believe that whatever you did was enough to like it was not pain free, but I don't think I made it worse
yes,
from
definitely.
running. So,
That's good.
and you give me advice, I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be out for the season
I
either.
know that
So,
was the biggest concern for us. Now, that was sort of Boston. Now, fast forward over the summer, you had some key races, and I think we really wanted to get you for your A race all prepped up, which was in Wisconsin.
yeah, so I had sort of a crazy summer. I had a 70.3 in June. That was sort of a last minute thing because I was hurt for Boston, but I trained fully. So I was like,
Yeah,
sort of have some of this fitness. And then I did a 10K swim just for fun with my dad. Yeah. So I was
great.
like, how, we signed up for that being like, I need to figure out my swimming. I
Yeah,
know how to swim, but for some reason, like something's up.
yeah.
And so you also got me ready for that.
Yes.
And then all of this sort of led up to like Ironman Wisconsin, which I signed up for like 10 months ago
Yeah,
with my like that was my main
main race.
A goal, yeah.
Yeah. And what's exciting for me is, do you want to share some good news?
Yeah, so that race went pretty well and I got a slot to Kona for
Yes.
2025, yeah.
Amazing. That is just an achievement. I'm really proud of you, number one, and really happy to have been part of that journey for you to get to that point. So exciting for us too.
Yeah, and like so much of that was like being able to add a ton of volume to my
Yeah.
like peak weeks without, having to deal with these like hip injuries and
Nagging
shoulder
stuff.
injuries. Yeah,
Yeah.
where, the smart thing is just not to like take yourself out of the game. Like you do have to respond to those things.
Yeah.
But I was able to get in so many more hours and like miles and whatever by
Yeah.
just having addressed that. So
That's incredible.
yeah.
So just, I wanted to get to the bottom of what really motivated you to, or what motivates you, or drives you to kind of do these things. Because a lot of people out there are like, oh, well, I just kind of runs my car.
Yeah.
But for people like you and me, there's something more that drives us to do the things that we do.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'd say there's like two parts of it. It's like I have my focus in school. I'm working on like my PhD in civil engineering, but that has to be
Amazing.
balanced with, yeah, that intensity has to balance with some other part of my life. And that's always since I could walk on like athletics.
Mm.
And I don't really know how to have one without the other.
It's your entire identity there.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I don't think I could see myself existing with just one part. And people are like, why do you keep signing up for races? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I still didn't do X, Y, and Z in this race, and I still want to like do X, Y. Like, there's always, sports are great because there's always things you can like improve on.
oh yeah.
And, I got my goal in terms of getting a spot to Kona, but like, I didn't have a perfect race. Like, I didn't hit all my like times and whatever. So that motivates me to like,
Cook more.
yeah,
Yeah.
for training going into next year. But,
Yeah.
and, it's fun. You can, I think the satisfying moments are so special
Oh
that,
my God, yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
And I don't know if you get those in many other things. So that's why I keep signing up for these races and going through the hard parts to get to those parts.
Yeah.
So,
Would you say that racing and maybe even just doing tries is something that helps to keep your mental emotional check as well?
yeah, I mean, that's sort of a double edged sword because I think when you get injured, it's not the physical pain is there, but emotionally, it is like so hard. But on the flip side, it definitely is like the thing I look forward to most in the day.
Mm.
Like, sometimes
Yeah.
depends on like what workout I have lined up,
Right,
but
exactly.
I think if you can like sometimes I now started to train with other people. Like I have that social part and I
Yeah.
have that I just love training in terms of like sort of shutting my brain off from work and school
Oh
and
yeah.
like not having my emails harassing me and sort of it's my time away from like everything else in life.
Absolutely. I think there's something powerful about being in solitude and something about being able to get away from the everyday routine
Yeah.
that really kind of brings out the best in us. And it sounds like it does for you as well.
Yeah, totally. Actually, like honestly, for these races, the Ironman, I love the fact that I don't have my phone. And, when I finish, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to turn on my phone and have to like s- deal with real
Yeah,
life
real
again. It's like a nice little like escape from life.
100%, yeah. So of the three disciplines, I know your swimming was your strongest background. What is your favorite of the three?
Yeah, so it's weird. That's a great question. And I know my least favorite because it's my worst is probably biking, but I have the most potential, so I keep telling myself that. So I didn't run or swim in college at all, really. So I would say swimming I hated growing up. Like
Really?
in Boston,
Yeah.
it's a winter
Oh,
sport,
it's always cold.
inside in the cold.
Yeah.
They're all indoor pools. Like, but coming here, I've grown to really love swimming. Being
Mhm.
outside is the biggest part of it
Oh
for
yeah.
me. But I would say running probably.
That was your favorite.
Yeah, it's easy for me to like run any time of day,
I
run
know.
more volume,
You
but
really just need shoes and shorts and you're ready to go. Yeah.
exactly. So running's definitely my favorite, but I think it is also a love-hate thing as
Yeah.
well in terms of progress and like results and
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely. And I think sometimes I don't know what maybe you're more adaptable than I am, but I'm definitely a fair weather runner.
Yeah.
Like if it's too hot, I'm like, oh, if it's too cold, I'm like, oh, but there
Yeah.
people can power through that. I just have a harder time than other people.
No, I'm definitely like that. I've sort of adapted to the hot, but now it's like the colds.
Yeah.
I don't love like waking up in the colds in the dark and running, but I think swimming's still harder to do when it's
Oh,
cold or dark.
100% agree. Oh
So
my gosh.
swimming's a seasonal favorite,
Yes.
I would say.
Now, Jess, what do you do when the going gets rough? Because I've heard many stories from other of my friends who've done Ironman racing and training. What do you do or tell yourself when the going gets tough in your training?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think that is the biggest thing I took out of 4 years of college racing was like mentally training yourself to like be able to deal with things without getting emotional, especially in a race. But
Yeah,
in my training, you go through times where you're not hitting your goals and where you just don't have the time because real life happens. And
yeah,
I think it's almost like I try to like take the emotion out of it by putting more of myself maybe into my work or like I
So
don't
you
know.
distract yourself from
Yeah,
the
the
race
other
train. Yeah,
part. And that's not
that's
to say I'm
interesting.
not training, but
Yeah,
I'm not, analyzing my workouts as much.
right, right.
So that's why I think the balance is so important.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Now, as far as nutrition goes, do you have any go-to things that you take on a race that you have been consistently working for you?
Yeah, that's now everything because they changed the race
Oh,
nutrition.
they did.
Yeah, so, Gatorade's like the staple of
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah, yeah,
sports. I
yeah.
grew up, but now it's Mortal.
Mortal. I haven't
Yeah,
heard of that one.
yeah, and it's funny because I'm not sure this helped me on the end of the race, but they only served mango flavored Mortal.
Uh-huh.
That happens to be the one thing in the world I'm allergic to. So, yeah, I had to like be totally self-sufficient during the race. And I mean, it's fine. I don't
Yeah.
love relying on aid stations, but towards the end of the run, I definitely could have used.
Oh, yeah.
I did get a few oranges, which were
Oh,
awesome,
no.
but I left that on my review.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the
Yeah,
race.
yeah,
What do you call it? Feedback for the race
yeah.
director? That's funny.
But I would say more so than the like during the race part would be like I before every race eat the same thing for like 2 days before. So I'm very like particular before the race,
Yeah.
and then during the race I have my selections because I often find like if you know your body and know what it feels like to be like need salt or need sugar, you can't like pre-plan everything. It can
Yeah.
be hotter, colder, windier, whatever than you think. So having like all the options available during the race and knowing the signals from your
Mm,
body
yeah.
is sort of how I go.
Got it. So
So
being in tune with that's really important, though.
yeah. So I would say mostly I actually don't eat a lot of like food. It's mostly like Gatorade and
Mm.
gummies and maybe like one bar or
Oh,
something.
wow. That's amazing.
But a
So,
lot of sugar, like a lot of condensed like sugar and
for
salt.
sure, yeah. I mean, the things people eat, it
Yeah,
amazes me they can eat on a
it's
race.
crazy. Yeah.
Cool. Now, as far as like your footwear, what do you wear for your running shoes? What's your favorite brand?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Hmm.
I don't know. I am went through an Adidas
Yeah.
phase. I'm sort of back into like
Yeah.
Asics. I sort of discovered the like Asic Magic Speed.
Oh, cool.
I've liked those.
Does it have the plate in it too?
It's nylon.
Nylon. Okay.
So I think if I go up to the next level, that's carbon plated.
Ah.
But we'll see. I'm not sold on that yet.
Hmm.
And then I also think Saucony has some. I haven't raced in a Saucony yet,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they have some good like middle to upper level shoes that
Cool.
I'm interested in for the future.
Do you have any, and I've asked this to a lot of swimmer friends, like, do you have any tricks for keeping your goggles from fogging? And
Yep.
does it bother you?
Well, actually, it had happened to me like almost every race last year.
Yeah.
I got the goggle spray, whatever,
Yeah.
leaking, and I got new goggles, and they're great. So I forget the name of them. I think it's Aquifer is the brand.
Aquifers. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
definitely. If you have like the Speedo,
Yes.
don't use those for. I haven't had luck with those in a
Yeah.
race. Like I had a billion pairs of those from swimming
Oh,
growing
sure.
up,
Yeah. Yeah.
but in terms of the race, that was game changing. No fog,
Really?
anything.
Oh, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
Like that.
So I think like it's probably the type of goggles because I don't think that happens in pools as much.
Ah, okay. I know I was using the anti-fog like wipes and that seemed to
Yeah,
help,
those like
but
sometimes get in my eye though.
it burns.
Yeah, but I've used those too. But I think if you play around with the brands like that, I found really helpful.
That's awesome. So with your training, did you have a coach kind of coaching you through, or you were self-coached?
I was self-coached, but
Hey.
I'll give credit to everyone on the team. I
So
probably,
multiple coaches, like peer
yeah,
coaching.
I like am training with coaches, so I've asked like a million any question you could think of. So
Yeah.
that is really been like the team has like been
Yeah.
coach, and I was like, I think I can get here in a year, but like I need a lot of questions answered first.
Yes.
So
That's true.
yeah,
You know what I love about the elite team is just the last time we had that mobility session,
yeah,
the camaraderie.
hmm,
And I think a lot of you haven't either met each other, seen each other in a while,
yeah,
but just coming together in that like-minded community, really seeing everyone kind of like gel, that was really kind of cool to see.
yeah, and it is fun to like certain people like I know like will always be up to go swimming one day, and
Yeah.
then other people like will like want to like bike and stuff. So it is fun to have other people,
Yeah.
are also out there training, and like I don't know, sometimes it gets me out of bed
Oh yeah, for
when I
sure.
like probably wouldn't otherwise. So or like pushes me to like ride like, longer than I wanted to.
Right,
So
right. That's
That's been
awesome. So when we work together, what are like one or two words that come to your mind when like sort of when you think about next level and working with our physio team?
yeah. I would say like there's like the accommodating part was super helpful. So like back to the Boston story was the fact that I emailed you like 12 hours before. I think you met with me and you were busy that day, but like managed to fit me in or stay after.
Yeah,
And that is like huge. I think you don't see that in a lot of places.
that's true.
And yeah, especially when you're racing, like those
Yeah,
important things do come up.
definitely.
And I'm used to, like I said, like athletic trainers being available like 24/7.
Yeah.
So you do get like so stressed. What do I do? Where do I go? And then the second part would be like listening
Hmm.
to the whole story to like make a bigger like evaluation of what's going on.
Sure.
So I think
Yeah.
I came in with like the shoulder thing and the hip thing and
Right.
like probably a million back thing. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what's going on. I've had a lot of these for a long time. The shoulder's probably like the first priority, but
Yeah.
like I did like, I don't know, I had hip dysplasia. So I don't know if that
That's right.
contributes to some stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't think it actually is a factor, but you sort of like listened and then worked, took us, you didn't like jump to any conclusions right away, which I appreciated
Hmm.
because I think it is complex
Yes,
when you come in with like a million things.
definitely. Yeah.
So I think the listening part to like get that bigger picture sort of
Yeah.
evaluation.
That's cool. I would say people say the same, that we kind of take a whole person approach
Yeah,
and we try to put it into the context of what you're training for. So if you're saying, well, I'm not training for anything, I probably would have taken a different approach and done things
right.
a little bit differently. But since we had a timeline, we had to just kind of get everything we could and the biggest bang for our buck in the time that we had together. So,
Right. And I would say that was another fear of mine, like before I went to a PT ever, was like, they're going to tell me not to race. And, it's like, I'd rather like just not know and be able to like race. But, I think that is a fear is like rest is such an obvious thing that I was surprised that you like were able to like give me guidance, give me an honest answer, but like also get me to a race because you knew that's what I wanted to do no matter like
exactly.
what. Yeah.
It's funny. I think when you have athletes working with athletes in that way,
Yeah.
because I'm just as crazy in different
Yeah.
ways. I know that I would want every option to, or any solution I could to get to that starting line.
Right.
And so, no, keeping that in my mind, knowing where you're heading, I was like, well, we have to get her to the race.
Yeah.
And so, I would say 9 out of 10 times we're able to do that, and you're one testimony, which is great,
Right.
of many others. And so it was actually for me, it almost makes me feel like we're a pit crew. Well,
Yeah.
we got to get her out. We got to
Yeah.
get back on track. So it was a lot of fun getting you to that point too, and seeing that you were able to get there. Now making these amazing achievements, Jess. That's been really
Right.
cool.
Yeah. And like knowing that I wasn't jeopardizing the rest of my season.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is like a fine balance
Yeah.
because, I knew I wanted to race, but I also knew like I had a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So I would say like, yeah, the just knowing what like a patient or athlete wants to is like one of the awesome things about Next Level.
Oh, thank you. It's funny because I would say that a lot of people we have seen, runners and triathletes and other hybrid athletes, they'll go to providers and whatnot, and they'll be told, don't race or
Yeah.
don't run without even taking a look at the entire picture.
Right.
And that's so defeating because for every athlete who came in through us and was able to get to a race, my heart goes out to the athletes who were told not to. Maybe they could have,
Right.
or done something
Exactly.
a little different, to get them through that period of time. And I would say that in that sense, it becomes a more transactional relationship rather than like a trans-relational kind of thing where we gotta work together to make this happen.
Right. Exactly. And, especially in the less obvious injuries, right? If I tore my ACL, like I know I wouldn't be racing, but,
Yeah.
ligament things and like SI things are so unclear because they're so painful, like
Mhm.
right away.
Yeah.
But, at least I wasn't, I don't think doing like long term damage to
No,
anything.
definitely not. And clearly, I mean, you didn't, so
Right.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think the other thing I was going to say was, as far as like you getting to this race and in Kona, what is your training going to look like for next year, you think?
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm my own coach. I do a lot of research. I sort of make up my training plan.
Yeah.
And, I hit my goal in terms of getting a spot, but like I wasn't and like I don't know if I'll ever be like super satisfied with what the race,
Yeah.
but I want to rework everything.
Hmm.
I don't think I'll start from like scratch,
Hmm.
but I think that's what I'm thinking about right now. Like how do I get faster on the bike?
Mm.
That's like I'm still losing time on the bike. So, you know, how, what do I need to do in terms of getting stronger? It's a
Yeah.
lot of power. Like I don't have that much trouble with keeping the cadence up.
Yeah.
So, I'm unfortunately, I don't love lifting, like thinking about sort of more strength stuff.
So I said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things we wanted to do this winter, we're thinking about was having a couple of group trainings with the iOS team,
Yeah, that'd
just
be
working
great.
on off-season strengthening to get the team ready for next year. So we're going to work that out with Sid and with Nathan and Tom. But I'm actually excited for that part.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming thing that we get a lot from our runners and triathletes is that they don't they see training as this other thing
Yeah.
versus like training as being integral to their performance and the recovery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that going into 2025 that our iOS team can go in really strong.
Yeah. And I think like, rowing is so much, it's a sprint. Like our races are like
Yeah.
6 or 7 minutes. So you do a lot of lifting, and I always got hurt lifting because I was trying to keep up with people who are just like stronger than me. But honestly, I am not a fast person. Like I'm not like a sprinter.
Hmm.
So that is what I need to do to get faster,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And it's like facing that fact where I like
Yes.
need to be doing sprints. I need to be doing like strengthening.
Yeah.
And yeah, like also, what I don't think I need to be doing like hang cleaning anymore,
No.
but like
Yeah.
what can I do without like crazy amounts of weights to get more powerful?
Exactly. And the good thing is that, we're not looking to make our triathletes bulky and whatnot. And genetically, it's hard for female athletes to get that kind of bulk naturally.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get you super strong. So
Hmm.
that's going to be lifting heavier weights, but the total sessions may be 30 to 40 minutes total. And that just it's a big time savings for our triathletes because
Yeah.
there's limited time as it is.
Yeah.
You got work, you got training and whatnot. But like if we can hit 2 or 3 exercises that are going to really kind of make you really strong
Hmm.
per session, that's what I think was going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah, and I will say like back to like things that have been fixed, maybe I'll see lifting differently now because I was not my spine was not straight. So when I was doing, we did a lot of like 1 rep max squats.
Yeah.
When you're putting all that weight on one hip, you get like have a lot of issues. So
Yeah.
now that I'm more centered,
Yeah.
I think maybe I'll like feel differently about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just that's a key thing that, especially when you're training alone,
Yeah. Definitely.
it seems harder to.
Yeah, lifting is always, especially depending what your goals are, lifting is in community can be a little bit more palatable, we'll say.
Yes. But I do think it helps even my running too.
Oh yeah,
That's my
definitely.
fastest races have been when I like made an effort to like do some sort of like strength training.
Yeah. One of our star athletes, that's my favorite. I don't know if I told you this, the Boston story.
I think you
Chris.
may have at our meeting, our
Yeah,
first
yeah.
did
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the one. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
was like,
So
I think he knows what he's talking about. I should go to him because he's an athlete.
yes. But it was Chrissy who went from a 310 to a 246
It's
at
crazy.
Boston, which is
It's
crazy.
crazy.
And she never lifted in her life. So for 10 weeks, like we just went hardcore lifting.
Yeah.
She was like, I never knew I could run this fast. So
Yeah.
I know it seems to happen for you, Jess, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, especially biking, like running helps a lot, but I think that's where like you see like rowing is very similar. You see a watts. We
Hmm.
row in watts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mine are not as high as other people. So like how do I get that higher? There's sort of like no way about it. Like
Yeah.
you have to gain power through like training and
Definitely.
getting
Yeah.
stronger
Oh,
and
for sure. And the good thing you have a whole year, right?
yeah.
I mean, could you
12 months.
imagine in like 12 months from now where
I
you're
know.
just like the strongest version of yourself?
I'm hoping. But I have time. That's you asked about my training. Like this is my thinking phase, and hopefully by like next month I'll like see the whole year and
Mm,
be able to plan. But training is gonna be a huge part of that.
definitely. Yeah.
And even swimming wise, like,
Yeah.
I could gain a lot of power by just doing more
Yeah.
strength.
I think so. Yeah. Cool. So, any closing things? So I would say, Jess, if somebody were on the fence about coming to see us at Next Level, what are some things that you would say to encourage them to make them feel certain that this is the right choice for them?
Yeah, I would say it's like super friendly and accommodating. And if you have little things that, like, nothing is too small to address.
Mhm.
And, getting hurt 7 days before Boston, like, I wish I had just been like a little bit more proactive
Yeah.
and came in earlier with things that have been bothering me for years. And like, I would say like there are solutions. It's not always like a huge long-term thing. Like you sort of like help me get going and like go on my way. But
Yeah.
also like establishing a relationship with someone who, when things do come up down the road, you can seek help from is like really nice. Like if I
Oh, yeah.
have another injury, like I know I can email you right
Yes.
away. So
Yeah.
I would say just it's less intimidating than I imagined. Like you listen to what I guess I want out of my recovery
Yeah.
and like next
Mhm.
steps. So don't wait till it's too late. Like address the little things before you are like sidelined.
Yes, which is we want to prevent that happening for so many of our runners and triathletes, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. Cool. Jess, thank you so much again for your time. I really enjoyed working with you. I'm looking forward to helping you get to your Kona race next
Thank
year
you.
in a healthy way, and whatever we can do for the team until then to help prepare all of you for big seasons next year. I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and thank you for all your help this
Oh,
year.
you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. It really does mean a lot to us. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or comment if you got at least one or two helpful insights or takeaways to help you get to your next level.